Welcome back to the Producer Podcast Highlights. On today's show, we're giving you a special Volume 2 of a topic already covered on the Producer Podcast Highlights as we return to the topic of work-life balance. Today, we're joined by guests from several seasons of the show as we continue to discuss this ever-important topic. So without further ado, let's get started. Up first, we're excited to welcome back Micah Gerber.
And I think I'm going to respond very similarly. It's a hard one. It's work-life balance. It's rough. Because you have so much of your money can really speak a lot. And if life is all about money, then it's really not worth your time. So it's really setting priorities. So making sure that family is a priority. I think it also depends on whether you're married or not. So I'm a single person. I'm not married, which means that I have a little different priority. I also don't live near my family, my immediate family. So for me, I pull into that church family too, of how am I investing in the people around me, in my sphere of influence, in my friends. Am I just hanging them out to dry? Because film is taxing and you're gone for a long time sometimes. So what are you doing? So I know, like, when I'm out on a feature, I will, Zoom call in on things and try to interact and at least be there so that when I am in town, I can kind of engage and say, oh yeah, you guys talked about this. Or this, and that's harder, but like trying to interact. I know a lot of people, close friends that I've interacted with on set will, on their days off, FaceTime their family for a while. And I think that's huge. And I think as I do sets and make that accessible for people to be crew, making those opportunities for them to really be able to connect and foster those relationships. It's a weird and hard balance, and sometimes I can't say that I don't take on projects and put that over a priority over birthdays or something like that. I think it's a decision each person has to make of what they're at. Like, for me, I really set a priority on making sure that while I'm at home, I'm really at home. And I'm really, invested. I'm spending a lot of time with my church family, with my family, if I need to go visit, my family or something like that when I have time off. Making sure that I'm doing that. But also, I think making them aware of, like, hey, this is kind of how this world works. It sucks sometimes. It's not great. But just helping them to understand, too, like, how it works. Because I think that's the biggest question that I think a lot of them have is, like, well, why is he gone? Why is he not able to be there? My nieces and nephews are that way. Why can't he come to my birthday party? But I'm the best person to explain that to them because I'm actually the person working in that. That's not something I should be forcing on the parent to be like, yeah, try to explain something you've never experienced to this, 8-year-old who wants his uncle at a birthday party. You know, that's a so taking ownership of like understanding where you're at, understanding where your value is. So if you really value that a lot, which you should value family, don't get me wrong, but there's different levels of value, I think, and they're not wrong either way, you know, but some people have a lot more connection to their family.
Yes.
Understanding that connection, but also making sure that you're having the discussions with your family, especially extended family and stuff like that, of saying, hey, like, I also need to foster my career. My career exists. It is how I put food on the table. So I need to be aware of that as well. So not nixing your. I mean, it's a balance, right? Of saying, okay, I do have a career, I need to foster that, but I also have relationships and I need to foster that. So that's where I kind of look at it. Is it perfect? No, I'm an imperfect person. So
next up, we're pleased to welcome back Hannah Bartlett.
It's tough. It's really tough to find the balance. I think especially, well, no matter what stage of life you're at, but especially if you're married or have kids or whatever. We don't have kids yet, but I do feel like one day when we do have a family, like I'll probably be working less, right? Like ultimately, from a big picture perspective, God and my family are the most important to me. So if work needs to take a back seat on that, then it will. You know, I'll do that less. But right now, I feel like in the season of life for Andrew and I, like I'm learning so much about this, just the balance. It's really an everyday thing. And one of the things that I've had to work on doing, and I still don't totally have this down, but really is almost you have to produce your life as well in a sense of like thinking ahead, right? And for Andrew and I, I'm kind of producer of our life, not just the work, right? It's like, okay, let's think ahead. Where's our budget at? Like, do we need to go visit family or take a vacation or do stuff like that? And I think something important with that is to be intentional, because especially being a small business owner and working in film in general, life is just crazy. Mm-hmm. And it can be just full of work. And it's never really going to slow down, you know, as much as you kind of think, oh, someday, you know, we'll have all of our processes down. It'll be all organized and, you know, it'll slow down. I mean, I think the film world in general is just crazy busy, and that can be a really good thing. But learning how to balance that, I think you have to really think ahead. Okay, we're going to take a vacation in the spring. You're thinking about the fall, right? And how you can manage your time that far ahead. Because once you're in the thick of it and you have client deadlines and you have things going on, you can't change the contract. You can't change those deadline dates, but you can be thinking ahead 3, 4, 5 months down the road and, you know, maybe setting aside that time if possible for a family vacation or things like that. And also taking it a day at a time, because sometimes even if you have a deadline coming up, you need to be, no, tonight, you know, we're going to go on a date, or we're going to have my family over, or some church friends, or whatever it happens to be. Sometimes you just have to force yourself to take a break and be okay with that, you know, because there's always going to be that to-do list sitting there.
Yes.
And I feel like a couple other things that honestly just in the past couple of months here that God's been showing me is that you can come to the Lord with that balance and with those maybe stressors or whatever happens to be. But just taking it a day at a time, giving it to God, and remembering what's most important. I also was just listening to a really interesting talk online about stress and how stress, you need to view it as something positive instead of something negative. And I had never thought of it that way before. To me, stress was always like, oh no, like I'm stressed, oh dear. Like I need to, you know, I never get a balance with the family life or whatever, but instead thinking of stress as like God created our bodies to deal with stress, and it can be, if you think of it positively, you're going to be more confident. You're actually going to be less stressed, and you're going to be, I think, able to manage that family balance a little better when you're able to think of stress in a more positive way of this stress is helping me. It's helping me be more bold, or it's helping me my body prepare for, the 10 days of shooting we have ahead or whatever it happens to be, right? So that's been something that I've been wanting to work on, is just viewing it differently, kind of having more that eternal perspective and bringing it to the Lord, but then also getting enough sleep and eating healthy. That's something I'm kind of passionate about, because Andrew and I have both really struggled with that. Like, how do we get enough sleep when we have these deadlines and, there's a shoot coming up and I'm producing and the permits aren't coming back and people aren't responding and, these stressful situations. But really getting that sleep and eating right can help you be better in both areas, both in work, having a more clear mind to communicate with your crew and to deal with those situations that come up, but also in your family life, to not be so exhausted that you can't have that family and work balance.
Joining us next is Matthew Jordan, producer on the film Countercolumn.
So my story is I started dating the love of my life right when we locked the edit for Countercolumn, and we were married just a few months after our limited theatrical release. So it all kind of happened during Countercolumn, to be honest. And like, Abby is amazing. My wife, Abby, is just incredible. And being married has changed a lot for me. Learning to balance work life and personal life is a challenge. And, I just, because for the first time, it's like someone else is affected when I spend those late nights editing, when I have to go away for a day or so because of a project. And so it doesn't mean like those things can't happen. It's just I have to be careful that I'm not going to let work control my life. And so at the end of the day, I am willing to drop whatever I'm doing and even my whole career and prioritize my wife and my family someday. Because that's the most important thing. And so, I think as producers, we're used to making a lot of sacrifices for our projects, and so you just got to transition into that willingness to make sacrifice for your family and your wife. And I think what's really helped us in our marriage is communication about our expectations. And so, if I'll try to hear Abby out about, what does she expect for the week? What is she, a big thing was our evenings together. She wanted, we like to spend our evenings together. And so being disciplined to work my schedule where I'm getting up early and I'm finishing my work before the evening, and that I'm working while I'm at the office, not just goofing off or getting distracted with busy work. I got to work on what pays the bills and not necessarily passion projects. It changes everything. It changes your day. There's less you can do for free because you have to pay the bills. You have to provide. And so it's a good transition at the end of the day. I see it as it's making me, especially as I look forward to hopefully making another film eventually, being married it's helping me not get burned out next time. Because I know I have to rely more on other people, which I should have done the first time around, and I know I cannot be behind schedule, I have to be working when I don't feel like working and not procrastinating and being efficient at the office and all these things to adequately prepare and plan so that I don't, destroy myself and my relationship with my wife when I make another film, and so, it's such a good thing because I think being married is helping me learn a proper personal and work life balance, when before you're single and it's so easy, especially as a producer, especially as someone in the media producing space, it's so easy to let work consume your life because that's all you have. I got to say no to the long hours at the end of the day, and that means getting people that can help me so that I don't have it all on myself. And as I'm talking about this, something I'm thinking about is that whole idea of being a weak link in a project. I think we've all had these experiences where there's too much relying on us, and at some point it bottlenecks, and we're slowing everything down because there's too much on us.
Yeah.
And that's something I just really hope to move away from more and more. In my business with MJ Multimedia, I do video work and website design, and and then also filmmaking with Not That Kind of Movie Productions. Hopefully moving more and more away from that. Everything's on me, everything's up to me, because that's where you have to make those harder decisions that tempt you to compromise. And they tempt you to compromise your balance,
right.
your good balance, I don't want to have to work a late night because I didn't get enough help, or I didn't plan my project accurately enough. And another thing too is, I'll just be super honest, I struggle with time management. I'm bad at estimating time. And so when I say, it'll take me a week, it might take me 2 weeks. If I say, I'll be there at 10:30, maybe I'll be there at 10:45 or 11. And that's something my wife is so much better in, is that time management and that kind of inner clock she has.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing. It's a point of contention sometimes, because anything you're weak at and your spouse is strong in is going to be a point of contention at times. But I've learned to really, really, really appreciate her sense of time, and I'm trying to let her leverage that for me, and like trying to help. It's a pride issue on my part to like want to control my own life and like not let her have a say, and like, Matthew, that's actually going to take you longer than what you're thinking. And no, it's not. But the more I let her do that, it helps me actually accurately schedule myself and schedule my time. And so, it's stuff like that. It's just like, for us, I'm trying to let her use her strength to help me, in that. Balancing, that proper balancing of personal and work life, and planning for time off is important. Planning for time off and real time off, like real time away from work, where it's like you don't have your phone, or you don't have your laptop. For me, it's probably my laptop.
Yeah.
I don't have all those distractions of work that if I get 10 emails from a client, I won't know about it,
Right.
Like I gotta not know about it to not feel bad about not responding to it. And so, yeah, stuff like that, really important. And so it's a process. We're still growing. We've only been married for 1.5 years. But God's just been really faithful, and he's been helping us. And I've just been really thankful for my wife. So shout out to Mrs. Jordan out there, if you're listening to this.
And now we'll hear from Stephen Kendrick of the Kendrick Brothers team.
Well, movie production is in seasons. And so Alex and I talk about how it's like 3-month blocks. So there's like 3 months of writing this script for us. I know some people spend years on it and they may have better scripts, but we'll spend about, 3 months in a sense writing a script. We spend 2 to 3 months in pre-production, location scouting, building out the crew, the cast. It's usually 6 to 8 weeks of filming on our films so far. And then we will spend 2 to 3 months editing and polishing the edit, and then shifting into the other post of scoring, color correction, special effects, all that kind of stuff, polishing it out. And then it's usually a few months of marketing, those kind of things. So the heavy seasons are the production, pre-production and production. When we're in post, though, we don't have 100 people swarming around us like we do during production. So we can go home whenever we want to. You can clock out and go home and spend time with your family and be home for dinner night after night and those kind of things. And so, but it is a constant reining in our schedule, saying no a lot, delegating and stretching out the production schedules. I think a lot of people, they would be healthier, happier, have better marriages and kids and family and a better walk with God if they would just give themselves more time to get things done. A lot of times they're sprinting a marathon and they're crunching one thing on top of another, and there's no breaks and no rest and no vacations and no family time. And yeah, it's impressive how much they get done, but they fry their lives because they're sprinting a marathon. And it's like, man, pace yourself. We have said no multiple times to people that are like, hey, this movie just came out. There's a lot of momentum. Jump into the next movie while you guys are hot right now. And I'm like, no, we're gonna go home and rest and spend time with our kids and get our houses in order and make sure our marriages are strong and go live out the message we just communicated in theaters. And we're going to pace ourselves, So it is intense in a production schedule because you're working 10, 12, 14-hour days, depending upon what's going on. And you're spending a lot of money and, you got to be game on and highly efficient and those kind of things. But at our pace, we're not shooting usually a movie every year. And so we're able to stretch out and take breaks, and our families understand, right now it's during production. What's fun now is that, I have 6 kids. Alex has 6 kids. Our oldest brother, Shannon, has 7. And it's fun now because our kids are old enough to now come on the sets and they love it. They're like, I want to get up early. I want to be there. I want to be, painting walls and serving coffee and helping on set and acting or, whatever it is. And so they're loving that whole experience because you can learn a ton of skills on a movie set in a wide variety of fields. You watch the credits of a movie, man, it is amazing all the different arts and crafts and positions that are needed to pull it off.
And rounding out this episode of the Producer Podcast Highlights, from the post-sound world, we're joined by Nathan Ashton.
Every project that comes across my desk, full circle back to budget, I've worked for ultra low budget projects. I've worked for free. I've also worked on $1 million films. I've worked for HBO. I've worked for Spike. And I make as much money in a day for HBO as I do on some independent ultra low budget films. So the pay scale's really crazy.
Yeah.
And I have a wife who I love. I've got 3 kids. My second is going to college next year, so I'll have 2 with college bills to pay. I've got a house and 3 cats and a dog, and what else do we got in here? I got my son has a scorpion and a lizard, and a scorpion and a tarantula, and we have a lizard. So all these people want to eat.
Yes.
And we want to have a vibrant life. It's not just about the work. It's about living a life. So every time I get a project, we talk about it. We talk about the budget. I get to know the people. And then I tell them, let me think about this. And I take it to my wife and we talk. I take it to God and we talk. And we decide, is it worth trading this chunk of time for this amount of money to support these people and this film and this project? And if it's a yes, then we go for it. And it doesn't truly matter then what the contract is. We will deliver on time, on budget, with excellence. So there's been projects that they had $5,000, they had $2,000, they were free. They needed $12,000, $15,000 worth of work. So they're going to get that quality because that's what the film needs to live and breathe, and not to be born premature and lacking in the excellence that it needs to have a life. So it doesn't matter what I'm being paid. It matters that the end product is what it needs to be. So that's kind of where my intersection of faith and life and work have to come together, or I'm going to burn out. And then the next time that I get called up to work, I'm not going to be giving the strength that everybody needs so that the producer can have a career, the director can have a career, the actor can have a career, the lighting can have a career. All these people that are reliant on the film succeeding, if I don't bring my A game, I let everybody down. So I've got to balance my life. And a producer helps do that by guarding the stuff, by making sure that the budgets and timelines that are put forward are reasonable and realistic, and nobody ends up dying too many times. We all take
Yes.
we all take hits. We all do. We all and we sign up for it. This is war. We are going to get shot. And we know it. But a good producer makes a robust team that can have some longevity and be vibrant, not just get the job done.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Producer Podcast Highlights. Stay tuned for more Producer Podcast highlights, as well as news on upcoming new episodes and seasons of the show. Until then, make sure to subscribe to the Producer Podcast, and thanks for listening.